Breaking tonight, a tentative agreement for Christine Blasey Ford to testify before a Senate committee on Thursday. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. And thanks to all of you for once again making justice #1 last weekend and for keeping liars, leakers, and liberals on the New York Times bestsellers list. We'll be talking throughout the hour about that breaking news on Christine Blasey Ford, a tentative agreement for the woman accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of an attempted sexual assault to testify before the committee this Thursday. But again, this is tentative, and both parties are still talking and hammering out the details. We'll be talking about that more tonight with guests, including Counselor to the President Kellyanne Conway, as well as Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Charlie Kirk, and Katrina Pearson from the Trump 2020 re-election campaign. But first, to my open. Now, I've spent my career in the trenches, where crimes occur, where innocents are victimized, even slaughtered. I have actually fought on that battlefield for more than 3 decades, where justice is sought for victims. And I have long fought for a level playing field, particularly for women, the often silent and forgotten victims of crime. I have even advocated changing the name of the criminal justice system to the victim's justice system. The victim who never chose to be a part of the criminal justice system in the first place. I started the first domestic violence unit in the prosecutor's office in the nation in the late 1970s. As district attorney, I created a sex crimes bureau. My crusade for women and children existed long before the hashtag #MeToo movement. I respect facts, I know the law, and I understand what's at stake. Our criminal justice system is the most revered in the world. The constitutional rights of all Americans are etched in stone. And it is in this context that I analyze the situation we're in now. #1, due process requires equal protection under the law for the victim as well as the accused. #2, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy trial. #3, no warrant shall issue or criminal charge filed without probable cause. #4, the accused has the right to a trial by an impartial jury, the right to remain silent, the right to not only confront his accuser, but to cross-examine as well. #5, the burden of proof in every criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt, and that burden of proof is on the prosecutor. #6, as for the accused, there is absolutely no burden to speak or even present a case. Now, over the years, we've learned certain facts. #1, sex crimes are underreported because of the victim's fears of not being believed or her fear of the perpetrator. #2, the recidivism rate of sex offenders is estimated to be as high as 70%. So let us apply these foundational truths to the Christine Ford and Brett Kavanaugh situation. What motivation might someone have to come forward 36 years after an event? And how credible can such an accusation be? Some members of Congress don't care about any of this. The woman has to be believed and he is guilty. Forget a trial, due process, or even hearing from the victim. The Constitution be damned.
I believe Dr. Blasey Ford because she's telling the truth.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. They need to be believed.
I believe Dr. Ford. I believe the survivor here. There's every reason to believe her.
I believe Professor Ford. I think she's credible, and I think when the investigation is finished and when she testifies and Judge Kavanaugh testifies, I think a majority of senators will find her credible.
The dismissal of the fundamental rules of our justice system by congressmen, senators, congresswomen is stunning. And anyone who's prosecuted sex crimes cases knows that. Criminals rarely commit crimes in public or while a videotape is running. So in addition to the he said, she said, we look for corroborating evidence after we hear the core accusation of who, when, where, and how. Now, we don't expect minuscule details when a victim is being traumatized, but here, the alleged victim does not know the address, the date, the owner of the house, how she got home that night. Why? What was her appearance when she got home? She was 15. Did her mother see her? Did she suffer a behavioral change? Did her grades go down? To whom did she complain and when? In sex crimes cases in particular, recent outcry is compelling and reliable. When the memory is fresh is when you would most expect the complaint. When is the first time she even used the name Kavanaugh? Here, there is no indication of any of that. Physical evidence such as torn clothes, injuries, visits to a doctor, a hospital, photographs, there is none. Corroborating witnesses? Not only are there none, but one who just reported that she heard about this at school retracted her story saying, well, I didn't think I'd actually have to defend that. A man's reputation, family, career, and civil liberties are at stake. And you make a claim, and you didn't think you had to be honest? And finally, does the complaint ring true? And a complaint does not gain credibility based on the name of the accused. If that were the case, Bill Clinton's accusers would certainly have gotten their day in court. And what of the credibility and background of the accused? 65 women who've gone to school with him, dated him, worked for him, and know him, have come forward to say that his whole life has been about respecting women. Why? If there is such a high recidivism rate, a repeat of these crimes in violent sex crimes cases, have we never heard anything like this after 6 FBI investigations? And motivation. Whenever a complaint is old, any prosecutor would ask, why now? Dr. Ford said she was outed. Well, it was she who contacted 2 Democrat congresswomen 6 weeks before she came forward, and 36 years after it allegedly happened. And why take a lie detector test if she believed what she was saying? Why would she need an outsider to affirm whether what she's saying is true? Might it be part of a long-hatched plan to reveal? Investigators asked for lie detector tests. And by the way, they are so unreliable that I fought for a law in New York that wouldn't allow police to require women to take lie detector tests because they are unreliable. Now, while Ford is highly political, one incident is even more compelling. Do you remember when the president nominated Brett Kavanaugh, we heard that Kavanaugh's mother was a judge? Ford's parents, follow me, Ford's parents had a foreclosure claim against them and their home in 1996 in Maryland. Ford's parents lost their home. The judge ruled against them. The judge was a woman. The judge was Brett Kavanaugh's mother. Many times, victims are teed up by attorneys who want to become famous or rich. Sometimes, they're even used by politicians. Take a look.
She's not prepared to talk with them at a hearing on Monday. This just came out 48 hours ago.
No, not 48 hours ago, 36 years ago. Delay becomes even more absurd when she needs to drive across the country to Washington because she won't or can't fly. She was an intern in Hawaii a few years ago. How did she make that trip? Did she drive or surf across the ocean from California to Hawaii? And what's with this, we need the FBI? There's no federal crime here. They keep saying we need the FBI, but they don't ask for it because they know it can't happen. If you want an investigation, call the local police or 911. My friends, truth and justice and law and order don't change depending on the political parties. Women are to be believed not because a political party thinks they should be, but when they sound credible and present a believable scenario. And believability does not depend on the party of the complainant. And all men who were accused have a right to be cloaked in the presumption of innocence unless and until proof beyond a reasonable doubt shatters that presumption. And it matters not what your politics are. That Lady Justice is blind has been the truth in our system from time immemorial. I have honored that lady. I've admired her, and I've been in awe of her for as long as I can remember. But now I fear for her. I fear for Lady Justice. But not just Lady Justice. Our institutions and our bedrock constitutional rules that have made America what Ronald Reagan referred to as the shining city on the hill. We can never allow that to happen. And that's my open. Don't forget my new book, New York Times #1 bestseller, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy, is in bookstores near you. And if you're a fan of the show, or you like my opens, you might want to get a copy. More now on tonight's breaking news. Tentative agreement for Christine Ford to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee this Thursday. Joining me now with exclusive reaction to that and more, Counselor to the President, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening, Counselor. Thank you for being with us on this Saturday night. All right.
It's nice to be with you, Judge. Thank you.
Thanks, Kellyanne. All right. Now, McCabe, or I should say, we have just found out, in addition to this possible Thursday hearing, we find out that Andrew McCabe's lawyer, okay, is now on Christine Blasey Ford's team. If that isn't about political footprints, I don't know what is.
Well, those who are searching for the truth and transparency and accountability ought to file that one away, along with the fact that, as we know, earlier this week it was revealed that her two female lawyers were headlining an event for Senator Tammy Baldwin. The news flash here, of course, is not that they're Democrats. We knew that. It's that they're headlining a fundraiser for one of the 100 senators who is going to vote on Judge Kavanaugh becoming a Supreme Court justice. So lots of different conflicts, but I think those who appreciate transparency and accountability are calling for it ought to note that. And guess who is leading that charge? One Judge Brett Kavanaugh. You know, Jeanine, last Sunday was the first time Judge Kavanaugh heard the name of got the identity of his accuser, Dr. Ford. And less than 24 hours later, he gave his statements, his sworn statements, to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And that's under lots of penalties. Of course, if you lie to Congress, I believe it's definitely punishable. Mm-hmm. But he did so less than 24 hours of even knowing her identity. Why? Because his story has never changed. It's always been the same. He's been willing to raise his right hand and testify to clear his name and to say under oath and publicly for all to see and hear
Kellyanne,
what he has said already, which is that he categorically and unequivocally denies this.
But
he went a little bit further. But no, it goes beyond that, Jeanine. You got to read his whole statement. He said, "I've never done what is alleged to have done to anyone, including this person." He says to anyone. He said he wasn't there, and it doesn't seem to matter to anyone. So I'm glad he's going and she's going, and they'll be testifying. He's given no conditions, no demands whatsoever. All he wants to do is show up. He would have done any day this week.
No conditions, no demands. Let me tell you, Kellyanne, you and I are both lawyers. We get it, okay? I tried cases for 30 years. I've sat in the courtroom as a judge overseeing cases. You never, ever say to the defendant, you go first, when he doesn't even have a bill of particulars.
And there's a reason for that. That's right. There's a reason for that. To what are you responding? A Washington Post report?
Exactly.
The nonsense of the senators. I mean, Judge Kavanaugh spent 30 hours under oath, but not a single senator did. Now, did they? Not a single senator is under oath when they speak nonsense all week long.
Why did they have this and they didn't ask him, even without using her name? You know, Judge, have you ever had a problem or been accused or been at a party? Anything. Why?
Anything. And anything. Well, Senator Mazie Hirono, who famously told America's men this week to, quote, just shut up. That was really nice. Take note of that. She had asked Judge Kavanaugh a similar question, but she asked, like, since you've been a legal adult, have you done this? But by the way, she was just doing that because that's what she does. She's the newest. Go pull the transcript. But more importantly, there were private conversations between Senator Feinstein, for example, who sat on this letter, and Chairman Grassley, I understand, and Judge Kavanaugh. That's the kind of forum through which you touch upon sensitive matters. One would think this would qualify as a sensitive matter. Nobody mentioned it. So two things quickly. One is, it is completely at the feet of Senator Feinstein and the Democrats that Dr. Ford's anonymity was ever breached and her identity ever disclosed. Number one, the whole chain of custody for that identity rested with the Democrats. Number two, you can argue that the whole reason she's getting a hearing, the whole reason she'll have a public say is because of the Republicans, not the Democrats. The Senate Judiciary Committee, led by Chairman Grassley, is honoring her request to testify. She will be there. The White House has said all week, let her speak. Everybody has said let her speak. But to let her speak means she's actually coming to speak and not using cheap words like bullying. Nobody's bullying her. Nobody wants her to be unsafe.
Let me ask you, does the White House know?
To say, please adhere.
Kellyanne, I don't have much time. Does the White House know about this tentative deal, and are they concerned about the concessions that are being made for this woman?
The White House respects the process. This is still part of the Senate confirmation hearing of Judge Kavanaugh as a nominee to the Supreme Court. This is not a criminal proceeding. This is not a civil proceeding. This is another part. Of course, it was all done until they came up with this in the 11th and a half hour. This is part of the Senate confirmation hearing. And what I think is important to note is Judge Kavanaugh, this man of integrity and intellect and character, he has said he's never done this to anyone, including her. So that's really definitive and unequivocal. And he's also said he wasn't at the party. So she will have it. These allegations are serious. We take them seriously. We want to hear from her.
We all do.
But we also, it's not, but Jeanine, quickly, and my last point will be this. It is not a reasonable demand. It is uprooting hundreds of years of jurisprudence for the accuser to go second. In other words, you have to put your claim out there. The complainant, the plaintiff goes first, and then you respond to that.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for being with us on this Saturday night.
Vote. We want a hearing and we want to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Katrina Pearson and Dr. Sebastian Gorka are still on deck tonight. First, who leaked to the New York Times about Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein? Is it even true? And should he be fired for it? New details tonight from Fox News contributor and investigative reporter Sarah Carter, live as Justice rolls on in a moment. Developing tonight, is Rod Rosenstein rogue in the DOJ? According to a bombshell report from the New York Times back in the spring of 2017, the Deputy Attorney General suggested secretly recording his conversations with the president and floated the idea to invoke the 25th Amendment. Rosenstein denies it all. Fox News contributor, and she's more than a Fox News contributor. She has been working for 2 years as a national security investigative reporter on this Mueller issue, and she comes to us with decades of investigating, of being an investigative reporter. And I could go on, Sarah, but I'm not. So let's... Let's talk about, because you are a source of so much that has been exposed in the last 2 years, and I salute you for that. I really do. Now, do you believe the story that Rosenstein suggested taping the president and using the 25th Amendment to get him out of office?
According to the sources that I've spoken with, yes, I do believe this story, particularly because the New York Times had spent several months on this. That means they were in communication with the Department of Justice during those 2 months. They were trying to verify all of the information in their story. They had other sources. We know this based on Andrew McCabe's memoirs as well as Lisa Page's. Now, I know people are concerned. McCabe has lied in the past. That's why the Inspector General is looking into him. But look, he has nothing to lose. He's like a rat on a sinking ship with a bunch of other rats, Judge Jeanine, and he is going to take people down with him. He doesn't want to be the only guy to go down. He had these memos. He had these memos for over a year, and other people have had them too at the FBI. Apparently they leaked. A lot of people are pointing the finger at McCabe himself and others within the FBI and saying that's who got them.
Okay. Now look, McCabe's a liar. We know he's a liar. He's going to be indicted for being a liar. Okay. Comey's the liar. He lied to Congress. I haven't heard about his being potentially indicted or his case being before a grand jury. I don't like Rod Rosenstein either. But let me tell you this. I don't like him for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is that he slow-walked all of the congressional DOJ and FBI subpoenaed stuff to Congress and redacted just about everything. And I don't trust him. He brought Mueller to be interviewed as FBI head and then appointed him the next day to investigate Trump. All right? I don't like any of these players. It's not about like. They disrespect our system of justice, which seems to be going on all over. But Rod Rosenstein, what is coming now when the president declassifies, and I don't know how much he's agreed to declassify, and I want to know from you, is Rod Rosenstein going to be indicted, and is he looking to be fired? Is he setting this up?
Well, I think he definitely would appreciate being the martyr, and if the president fired him, I'm sure he'd play that card. But let me put it to you this way. The president needs to declassify these documents. The sources I've spoken with who have seen these documents, who have the classification to view them, have said there is nothing in there that is in any way damaging to sources and methods or national security. What is going to be damaging is to Rod Rosenstein, John Brennan, and others that are going to be implicated once the information goes public. The important thing for President Trump to understand is that Rod Rosenstein and these other people are playing him. The most important thing he can do is declassify that information so that the American people and Congress have this.
Are you answering my question? When you say that Rosenstein's playing the president, are you saying he's looking to be fired? Did he plant the story?
Look, the president under Article 2 has every right to get rid of Rod Rosenstein.
Okay.
We both know that. And it's important that the president doesn't have somebody in the Department of Justice that was willing to invoke the 25th Amendment, that was willing to wiretap the president of the United States.
Here's the problem. If it's going to bring on a Saturday night massacre and give the Dems a leg up, I don't blame the president. But I
don't either.
All right,
but the president needs to declass.
We'll have you on again. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks.
And Charlie Kirk is still ahead with this week's most outrageous statements, including one from Joy Behar. But next, she's busy trying to make sure President Trump is reelected, but Katrina Pearson takes time out to take on Chris Hahn. Right here, my political panel tackles Kavanaugh next.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Marianne Rafferty. Early estimates say Hurricane Florence caused as much as $44 billion in damage, putting the storm among the top 10 costliest hurricanes ever. And another round of flooding is just beginning as more inland floodwaters flow into the Carolinas. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper says some parts of the state could remain underwater for another week or more. And a deadly attack on a military parade in Iran on Saturday. Militants disguised as soldiers opened fire during that event. At least 25 people are dead and more than 60 are wounded in what is the deadliest terror attack to hit the nation in nearly a decade. ISIS claimed responsibility through social media, but Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has accused U.S.-backed Gulf Arab nations of carrying out the attack. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
Welcome back to Justice. A lot to talk about with my panel tonight, so let's get right to it. Senior advisor to Trump's 2020 re-election campaign, Katrina Pearson, along with advisor to Chuck Schumer, radio show host Chris Hahn. All right, Chris, not a good night tonight. How do you feel? Are you liking the Constitution?
I feel like
Okay.
I love the Constitution.
Yeah, don't we
you
all?
know that.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, I haven't asked you a question. That was yes or no. That's it. You answered it. Now, the Democrats are being disgraceful. They are saying she needs to be believed. They haven't heard from her. They haven't spoken to her. But because she's a Democrat and a Democrat political activist criticizing a Republican, she needs to be believed. But Juanita Broderick, who had a bloody lip and complained of rape, immediate outcry because she complained against a Democrat, she doesn't deserve to be believed. How do you justify these contradictions?
Well, that was 1992.
The
and
law was the law in
1992 when that
1992.
was happening. So, but let me put it to you this way. President Clinton stood before the voters and was confirmed by the voters. This man is seeking a lifetime tenure, and he will only be confirmed by Congress and by the Senate. So you need to pay higher attention and put more scrutiny on a Supreme Court judge than anyone else in our government.
Nobody disagrees
of their
with that.
lifetime
No
tenure.
one disagrees with it.
Right.
Let her talk. But if it's a he said,
And
she
she will.
said, there is no way you're going to decide this.
Well,
It
Judge,
will be political.
There is another witness that could be called. His name is Mark Judge.
Mark
He
Judge
was
said it
there
never
when it
happened, and he doesn't
according-
want to get involved in this nonsense.
Well, you know what? He doesn't want to perjure himself, is what it sounds like
you don't
to
know
me.
the
And
guy.
I think the
Don't
guy who
accuse
writes
him of
about
that. All right, I'm gonna stop.
masculinity should
Katrina,
man
hit
up
it.
and come to Congress and talk.
Katrina, go.
Look, okay, so the accuser has apparently agreed to come in to tell her story next week, although this is in the hopes that they can agree to terms. That doesn't exactly put it on the docket, which means, Judge, we are right back to where we started and exactly why the vote should have never been delayed in the first place. Look, the process is right. Chris, you're right. There is a process to go through Congress, and guess what? It's done. The interviews have been had. The hearings are completed. Now it's time to vote. Now, as a mother, as a woman, I believe this woman should tell her story to the Maryland Police Department.
Well,
she is alleging a crime, and that should be reported to the authorities. But as for Congress, this process is complete, and they need to vote on Monday.
All right, Chris,
Katrina,
let me ask you
Judge.
this. Let me
So,
ask you
Judge.
this, Chris. Chris,
Okay.
wait.
Go ahead.
There is no way you're going to be able to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. None. So what you're doing is setting this man up for his own lynching. What you're saying is the accusation is enough. If she comes in and she says, and then he says, no, I didn't, we're gonna smear this man, a family man with 2 little girls, for the rest of his life for political reasons, and you know it and I know it.
Judge, the only reason we're not voting on Monday is because they don't have the votes to confirm Brett Kavanaugh right now. If they did, they would vote. We know that.
We do?
I agree with you. We should. I agree with you that there should not be unfounded accusations just thrown out there, which is why I agree with the accuser that the FBI should reopen his background check,
Chris,
which like they did when Anita Hill came forward.
The FBI does not investigate sex crimes. And I did this for 35 years.
Hold on a minute.
Don't go there and
It's not
mislead
an
my audience.
It's not an investigation.
I'll tell you, I'll give
simply
you
of a
another
sex
reason why the
crime. It is
FBI cannot investigate it, Chris, because they do not investigate incidents that occur before the 18th birthday. So cut the crap.
It is a background check.
They did 6 of them. What do you think? His mother's going to change?
30 days, they have reopened background checks and judiciary hearings. It is not uncommon for them to reopen a background check at this point in this campaign.
Go ahead,
and they
Katrina.
should
But
be
look,
doing that right
everybody
now.
knows what's going on here. This is just political delay tactics. Democrats didn't think this was important when they had the information 6 weeks ago. They still didn't think it was important because they didn't report it. It was actually leaked. Here's the thing, Judge. It's not Congress's role to determine the validity of repressed childhood memories. It is Congress's role to advise and consent on the appointment of a United States Supreme Court justice by this president. Everyone in that body knows what's going on here. Therefore, they need to vote on Monday.
You know, Chris.
Again, you know why they're not voting on Monday? Because they don't have the votes to confirm on Monday.
All right, now listen.
We don't know that they're not voting on Monday
I don't think
either.
they should be in committee anymore. I think they should take it to the full Senate. Have Mitch McConnell.
They wouldn't have the votes there either.
Absolutely.
They don't have the votes.
What are they going to do? Change their mind because a woman says something that no one can confirm? No one can corroborate?
Judge.
What?
Judge, you're right. There's never going to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a court of public opinion, and the Republicans in the Senate do not have the vote to confirm Kavanaugh right now.
You know what, Chris, what I don't understand,
they would push him through.
Chris, when I was a judge, if you think some victim was going to come in my courtroom, and I spent my life fighting for victims, I have a reputation for that, okay? If you think a victim was going to come in and tell me how justice should be dispensed and Congress can hear or they can't hear, you can't ask me, 36 years later, you're out of your mind. Katrina, I have you on again because I took your side. It's bigger than a court of law. It's Congress. They are the citadel of the Constitution and the laws of the United States. Katrina Pierce and Chris Hahn. Bye.
Thank you, Judge.
Next, an insider weighs in on the Rod Rosenstein New York Times story. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, who was working in the White House at the time all this unfolded, joins me live. You don't want to miss this.
We have a true swamp in Washington.
The number 2 man at the Justice Department is denying a report that he floated the idea of having President Trump removed from office. The Times also states Rosenstein even offered to secretly record the president.
I don't buy for 1 minute the Department of Justice explanation that he was just joking around. I also believe that they're trying to trap the president.
It is the equivalent of an attempted coup.
There's a lingering stench, and we're going to get rid of that.
Confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh. Negotiations are still underway. Senator Grassley finally has had to extend yet again the deadline.
We have to fight for him.
In the very near future, Judge Kavanaugh will be on the United States Supreme Court.
Daily Caller uncovered that back in 2017, Professor Ford's attorney vowed to resist President Trump.
We're going to fight that. We are going to resist.
What the left does is they try to destroy you. That's what they're trying to do to Judge Kavanaugh.
The stock market, which to me is jobs, hit an all-time high. America is winning again, winning like never before.
You know, Anna just asked, which camera is my camera? Every camera is your camera.
You guys are having to show me around. You know, back in the good old days, you were a guest when I used to be the host, and now she's on the other side.
In a different studio, downstairs.
Anna Boyman taught me everything about television that I
know. Oh, wow.
It's true.
It's her fault,
really? It's her fault. America, your fault.
You guys are really enjoying the sparring back and forth.
Yes. So. Yesterday, Jesse Waters was on the 5 saying he was trying to decide who he would pick to be on Survivor with him, and we're going to show that later. He normally would pick Pete. He's in great shape. He's an Army man. He said, but I got to go with Ed. Ed always beats him at everything.
Even when he's wearing his dad jeans.
Dad jeans, really? One of our viewers said, Pete, I had to write this down. Pete's too busy eating cake and napping. Remember who jumped out of a plane. You missed that. We might show you that video.
Wait, I've never jumped out of a plane ever.
By the way, we're not going to show clips of me. We're going to show clips of you. We have some of your greatest hits.
We're psyched to have you back. How does it feel?
Feels great. And thank you for having me. Thanks to the producers.
You're like a new old pro.
Yes, I get an award for the longest commute for sure.
You do? Australia?
Australia.
How's home?
It's about 28 hours door to door. I went home to North Carolina, folks in Charlotte. You know, there was a lot of flooding there. Wilmington really got hit hard. I've got some friends there that were dealing with that, but everybody's okay. Yeah,
great. That's
everybody's
okay.
It was nice.
I thought I had a long commute from Washington. You beat me by many, many hours coming from Australia. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of people wondering this morning whether someone else is going to be packing their bags. That will be Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, after this explosive story in the New York Times. Is he going to get fired? Is he going to get pushed out? This story suggested that Rosenstein in May of 2017, there was this big meeting right after James Comey had been fired by the president as the FBI director, of course. Big meeting between DOJ and FBI officials where Rosenstein allegedly talked about secretly recording President Trump to document chaos inside the West Wing and then potentially rallying cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment. He's denying this.
Yes, straight away, this is what Rosenstein is saying. He said, I never pursued or authorized recording the president, and any suggestion that I have ever advocated for the removal of the president is absolutely false.
See you later, Rod Rosenstein. I mean, really, I'm sure my guess is if we live in a world where everyone could say an accusation from 36 years ago, not to go down that train, must be believed, I believe this is probably true.
Well, but
he probably joked about it.
You think it was sarcastic, or
yeah,
you think
sarcastic.
He really, yeah, okay.
Like, let's wear a wire. Rod Rosenstein is part of the whole resistance that is trying to cover up what was done against this president from the beginning.
Hang on.
His instinct was to fire this guy from the beginning. But the problem is he's in charge of the special counsel. So that unravels a whole other thing.
You make an important point, which is right after this May 2017 meeting, Rod Rosenstein, since Jeff Sessions had recused himself, appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel. This was a critical meeting. It wasn't just the joking around. Right after this, Rosenstein says, I think the president and his campaign and this administration needs a special counsel to investigate them. Here's the element I think you left out, though. Who else was at the meeting? Hang on. Andrew McCabe, who was then the acting FBI director. He is now under federal investigation, of course. We reported about this, McCabe, for lying and leaking. So did he leak this story now to make Rosenstein look bad and then try to provoke President Trump into doing what you're saying right now?
You know what I mean?
Fire Rosenstein.
None of it. I don't care about any of it. It's all palace intrigue. It's all D.C. swamp intrigue.
No, it's not.
They're all in the same club.
No,
they're all.
Well, is anybody really surprised about this story coming out? I mean, after Woodward's broke, and you hear all about that, then Anonymous posting what he did, is anybody really surprised? That's what Donald Trump Jr. just tweeted last night. He said, shocked, absolutely shocked, sarcastically. Well, President Trump is warning about the DOJ and the FBI. He says there's a lingering stench, and we're just going to try to get rid of it. Take a listen to this.
Just look at what is now being exposed in our Department of Justice and the FBI. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on. And I want to tell you, we have great people in the Department of Justice. We have great people. These are people, I really believe, you take a poll, I got to be at 95%. But you had some real bad ones. You've seen what's happened at the FBI. They're all gone. They're all gone. They're all gone. But there's a lingering stench, and we're going to get rid of that, too.
See, that's my point. Lingering stench. His reaction to this story is that maybe Rosenstein was plotting. That, I mean, I've even seen people online, this may be extreme, saying this was a silent coup. They were going after the president. And so my point is McCabe leaking this? Because he's under the gun. Sure. Lisa Page, by the way, from the FBI. Page and Strzok and all those text messages. Strzok wasn't in the room, but Lisa Page was in the room, along with Andrew McCabe. And we know they didn't like Donald Trump.
So what should happen now?
They're under the gun. Are they trying to get Rosenstein in trouble, provoke the president into firing Rosenstein, and then having a constitutional crisis?
There you go.
We told you that Donald Trump is unstable. Is this their goal?
Yeah, and critics are going to say that Trump is trying to obstruct justice every time he says, oh, this is a witch hunt and all that.
Yeah, no, you're right. But it also feels like when you add it all up, you've got a lot of people that don't like this president in positions of power, out or in, finding ways to confuse the situation, make it look like he's obstructing, they're on the side of virtue. I just think if you're a viewer like me, you're watching all this, you say, I can't even keep the name straight.
Sure.
Let alone
there's so many,
who's leaking. Yeah, who's leaking, who's lying, who's joking, who's being sarcastic. Ultimately, they all hate this president because they are part of the permanent political class in Washington that were supposed to be in charge. Hillary was going to win. They were going to keep on doing on. Now he's taken on China. He's doing all the things they said they shouldn't do, and they don't like it. And they're being exposed, and their jobs are.
That's a moment ago.
But Ed,
you said this
you
is
open
not
up
a
the New
big
York
deal.
Times. You open the New York Times, or well, this is the New York Post. That's a good newspaper. You open up everyone else. They're not talking about this. It's Russian collusion still. they can't get on the real scandal, which is the investigators who were underneath the tent trying to undo this presidency.
I think there are a lot of
That's
Americans
where reporters are
out
missing
there
it.
who are in your camp who are going, I feel disrespected. I think that's what they're saying. They think that they're feeling disrespected because they voted this president into office, and then you have all these people trying to undermine him and get him out of office.
By the way, Republican Matt Gaetz told Tucker last night Rosenstein should be brought before, pardon me, the House Judiciary Committee. He should go under oath, get the truth about what happened here, and if he's not telling the truth, he should be fired.
Hard to keep faith in him.
What do you think? Friends at FoxNews.com. We have another breaking story we've got to get to.
That's right. On to a Fox News alert now at 8 minutes after the hour. The accuser of the Supreme Court Justice nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, is granted yet another extension.
Dr. Christine Blasey Ford now has one more day to decide whether or not she'll testify to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Our own Jillian Turner live in Washington, where the clock is ticking. Jillian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. The ball is now back in Christine Blasey Ford's court. Chairman Grassley writing in a middle-of-the-night tweet last night, 5 times now we've granted extension for Dr. Ford to decide if she wants to proceed with her desire stated 1 week ago that she wants to tell Senate her story. Dr. Ford, if you changed your mind, say so we can move on. I want to hear your testimony. Come to us or we to you. And then, sounding rather beleaguered, he added, with all the extensions we gave Dr. Ford to decide if she still wants to testify to Senate, I feel like I'm playing second trombone in the Judiciary Orchestra, and Schumer is the conductor. And the president doubling down on his controversial Twitter comments yesterday in which he said if the attack on Dr. Ford was as bad as she says, charges would have been immediately filed. This sparked a nationwide "Why I Didn't Report" hashtag yesterday from victims of sexual abuse.
We have to fight for him, not worry about the other side. And by the way, women are for that more than anybody would understand.